Wednesday marked exactly 1 month since the deadly school shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida. Across the country, students observed the day by standing up and walking out of their classrooms. Organizers said they were protesting Congress, specifically what they consider inadequate responses to gun violence in schools and neighborhoods. A piece published in Vanity Fair Wednesday gives an up-close account of what took place there as students made sure the nation heard their voices. Dave Cullen wrote this piece for Vanity Fair. He's the author of the book Columbine. He joins us from Parkland, Florida, to talk about what he witnessed. So Dave, you were there at the high school when students were supposed to just walk out for 17 minutes, but it wasn't enough for them. Tell us what happened next.
It wasn't. It was kind of a spontaneous thing. So they walked out 17 minutes and stayed in the field behind a big fence, and then they came back into the school, and a lot of them were frustrated it wasn't enough. Meanwhile, the middle school just down the street had also decided it wasn't enough. Some of those kids made a run for it, more followed, and a wave of 1,000 kids came down the street. And so just as the Douglas kids were going back in, they saw this huge mass of basically their brothers and sisters and much younger kids who had kind of broken out of their school, and they decided, we're going too. Meanwhile, there had already been talk also on social media. There was some on Snapchat this morning and Instagram. Some kids have been talking about it, but they weren't sure they were going to do it. But once they saw the little kids do it, they decided it was go. So they left the school. They marched down this street for nearly 2 miles to the park where the memorials had been and held a big rally there. And it was kind of a spectacular day. And they really felt really incredibly invigorated.
And interesting to know that the older students felt liberated by some of the younger students who walked out. What were some of the conversations you had with these young people or that you heard them having? Because the video that we're seeing, everyone seems very jovial, very positive, despite the horror that many of these students have been through.
Yeah, it was amazing. There were some really weird kind of images. This little girl, she actually had little cat ears on the top of her head, and I was standing next to the rabbi giving the invocation, and the little girl said something like, "Excuse me, sir, what if I want to speak?" Like she thought I was in charge or something, and so I pointed her to the woman in charge, and 2 minutes later she was speaking, and she really wowed the crowd. She said, it hurts to see my friends crying and to see all this, this carnage. And she said, everybody needs to do something, whether, you're 14 or 16 or a teenager or an adult or even an 80-year-old. I don't care. Make some change. We need some change in guns. And there were kids in junior ROTC in full uniform. There were like 50 of them. And it was an ROTC kid who actually led the walkout from the middle school. And seeing kids in Army uniforms talking about how we need to get rid of these assault rifles and get gun control. That was also really interesting and really kind of powerful.
And I think it's also interesting, a young girl looks at you and thinks you're in charge and you try to direct her to the folks who are really leading the way. But it also, who is in charge in these types of situations? Do all of these students just feel like they have a platform now and they're really just wanting to speak to whoever will listen?
They totally do. And the young woman who was in charge, I believe, was 16. I believe she's a junior here at Douglas. She had actually planned a small rally at another park 3 miles away. And that was going to be kind of a small thing going on. So she had speakers. She had somebody with a microphone and like a mobile speaker ready to go there. And when she saw all this happening, I asked her, when did you change plans? She said about 10:17. As the kids came out, everyone got moving and they were running this way, and she realized, okay, everybody's going the other direction. I got to redirect mine. So she got on social media. She called the rabbi, put the speaker in the car, drove it not quite across town, but drove it and redirected her whole rally to a different location, also on the fly. So what's really amazing is how nimble these kids are, and they can organize, reorganize, change, bring different schools and different protests together at once, and like that, like we've never seen before. So that they really have a power that I've never witnessed before.
And, a core group of Stoneman Douglas students have really taken their campaign nationally. There'll be a march on Washington. And this has really got everybody's attention. But it sounds like what you're saying is even just for the regular students there, including the middle school students, this seems to be an awakening of sorts.
It has. And it really, the word like empowering is maybe a little overused, but it really has been empowering for them. It's like, yeah, you know, I'm talking to 11 and 12-year-old kids today who just decided to do something. And I think they've gotten the message that, like, you don't have to wait. You don't have to wait till your parents tell you what to do, or a teacher tells you to do, or an adult, or even a high school kid. If you think, when you know it's the right thing and something ought to be happening, just do it. And they're just taking control of their lives, and they're doing it. It's kind of amazing to see.
Yeah.
These little kids, some of them were like, I swear we're about up to my waist, and they're like, well, we decided to do this today. Like, that's freaking amazing.
It's something else. I read your piece. I encourage people to look at Vanity Fair and look at 17 minutes. It's not enough. But you know what? It's better to speak with you and see just how inspired you are after spending the day with young people there. Dave Cullen, thanks so much for your time.
It's amazing. Thank you so much, Errol. Bye.